Good morning and welcome to the second event of our series of three hours online seminars, which are organized by the ELMA project and which will give you insights into the state of the art of electric water mobility. My name is Jens Masuch. My company Gamma Consulting is assisting the lead partner of the ELMA project, the Economic Development Cooperation for Pommern, in the implementation of the project, and today it will be my task to guide you through this event. In the beginning, I would like to forward to you greetings from Mr. Mario Heinrich from the Economic Development Agency for Pommern, who actually had planned to say some introductory words today, but unfortunately Mario fell ill today and cannot participate. So I have also to take over a little bit this part here. So some words about the ELMA project from my side in the beginning. ELMA is an international cooperation project that is financed within the Interreg South Baltic, co-financed within the Interreg South Baltic program, under the lead of the Economic Development Cooperation for Pommern. 10 institutions have teamed up to foster and promote electric water mobility in the South Baltic areas, and that means the geographic focus is on Germany, Poland, Lithuania, Denmark, and Sweden. But of course, we look also on other parts of the Baltic Sea, and I'm happy also that we today, for example, have participants from Latvia among the audience. Our goal with the project is to on the one hand to help companies to enter the international supply chains of producing but also operating electric boats and ships. But on the other hand, we also have the aim to familiarize local and regional competent authorities with the opportunities of electric mobility on the water. Last week, in the first event, we had a look into public urban water transport, and our case study was there, Stockholm. And the online seminar today has a little bit a different focus. So we will deal today with the challenges and opportunities of electric water mobility in leisure boating and recreational shipping. And in order to explore this topic further together with you, we have today chosen again a case study, and this time it is the city of Amsterdam in the Netherlands. As you may know, Amsterdam is among, I would say, the world's leading cities when it comes to the transition to emission-free transportation in general. And one of the political steps made is that the city government has also decided to ban ships and boats with internal combustion engines from the city center already in 2025. So the transition into an electrified boating region is here already ongoing and has taken up pace. And so we can expect today not only to learn about visions and plans, but also already about very concrete practical experiences. Yeah, actually, we wanted to go to Amsterdam. Our plan was to really make a study trip and invite you to this so that we could also have a look to these beautiful cities with more than 80 kilometers of canals in the city center. Unfortunately, this is not possible, but I hope that these online seminars can also give us some insights and you some inspirations. Some words about or a little overview about the agenda of today. So here you can see that what we are going to do in these 3 hours. So in the first part, we will have a little bit the policy perspective, and we are happy that Mr. Egbert de Vries, the Vice Mayor of the City of Amsterdam, will give us first-hand information about the policy framework. In the second block, we will then have a look into onshore and charging infrastructure, both the strategy and approach of the City of Amsterdam to create it, and also a very interesting private initiatives, and this is the SKOON platform, which offers renting of charging and sharing of charging facilities. So here we will have a presentation by Peter Paul van Vorst. After a short break, where you can grab a cup of coffee, we will then have a look into urban use cases for e-boats and e-ships for recreational purposes. And here we will have a look to the rental market, the boat rental market in Amsterdam, which is very diverse. And we have chosen here two innovative rental offers and examples, which may also be an inspiration or maybe transferable to cities in our area. On the one hand, Boat Now, which is a platform that offers skippered e-boats, and on the other hand, Sloepdelen, and also connected to this, Let's Book. So here, this will be about a fully automated bareboat charter scheme that is operating since several years now. So these are the plans for today. Yeah, what is important is we will have presentations, and after each presentations we have reserved some times for your questions, so that you can also get in dialogue with our speakers. You could do that either by just raising your voice and asking the question directly, or also by using the chat. So we will then pick up your comments and forward them to the speaker. So I hope that you will make use of this opportunity, and that you will really make this seminar today to an arena for picking up information and knowledge, and that you get new inspirations concerning electric water mobility in the field of leisure and recreational boating. So this should be it about the introduction, and now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Egbert de Vries, the Deputy Mayor of the City of Amsterdam, responsible for traffic and transport, water and air quality. And Mr. de Vries will give us some first-hand information on the policy framework for Amsterdam's transition into an emission-free boating region. So, Egbert, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. And welcome to everybody in the meeting. I'm going to go to my presentation now. Welcome everybody. I'm very happy to be in your meeting. And let me see. Can you see my presentation now? Yes. Very happy to be in your meeting. The City of Amsterdam is looking forward to this meeting because we also foster the cooperation with the Baltic countries. And we would like to share our experiences with you. I visited the Baltic countries many times, and I found out that there's been a long-standing cooperation between the Netherlands and the Baltic countries. If you look at the 17th century, where we all got our wood from Finland transported to Latvia, then coming to the Netherlands by big ships to make even bigger and greater ships in the city of Amsterdam that would then sail to the east and the west of the world, and taking cargo from there to our city. There's been a long-standing cooperation between our countries. But also recently I visited Poland, and I was in cities like Gdańsk and Torun, and I could see the way you use water. In many times there's a lot of similarities between the city of Amsterdam and these cities. You also use water for recreational purposes. I used your ferries, and it was good to see how your cities are also fostering the use of water, because it's a very nice way of being recreationally, and also it's a way of being sportive. So thank you very much for the invitation, and I'm going to present something about the zero emission policies that we have in Amsterdam. And the reason we have these zero emission policies is not primarily, it didn't start with greenhouse gases and the climate problem that the world faces, because we even started earlier. And this is an explanation perhaps for the fact that we've been a front runner in the European context, because our main reason to start with zero emission was about clean air. We found out that the city of Amsterdam is a very polluted city. Whereas in the central of Europe, we are linked to large industrial areas. So the air that people in Amsterdam breathe was very polluted with small particles, but also with nitrogen compounds. And that would lead to health problems, mainly lung system is affected. And the life expectancy of people in Amsterdam was 1 year lower than in rural areas or areas in other places of Europe. So we really had a reason, a local reason, a regional reason to start working on a program for clean air. And the best way to clean your air, one of the most important parts of cleaning your air and policies that you can do locally, is going for zero emission transport, because our fossil fuel powered engines, they produce these toxic compounds that are polluting our air. Then secondly, obviously, we also have a big policy on carbon dioxide reduction, and we try to adhere to the Paris Agreement like many of your cities are doing. This is an extra reason, obviously, to push for zero emission policies. So our action plan for clean air actually is based on 4 pillars, very obvious probably for you, and you know these policies in your own cities. Communicate about it, so we need to actually tell people what the problem is. We did it in a very different way, for example, by putting up testing stations in the cities, in the streets where pollution is the highest, so that people actually could see what kind of polluted air is around. But we also communicated in our newsletters and on our websites about the problem. Then secondly, you have to stimulate people to choose other options. So we have a huge program, for example, for people in logistics and taxis, that they can actually have some kind of sponsorship to switch to zero emission cars. And this is also done in the boat systems. And then facilitate. And facilitate, main important reason that people found it sometimes difficult to switch to zero emission is obviously, where can we charge our boats? Where can we charge our cars? Is it possible to navigate the same amount of miles that we used to do on fossil fuel and power? Do we have charging stations? So the facilitation of zero emission is a very important pillar, and the 4th pillar is obviously regulate. So to push people also to do it, you also have to set some dates, some goals, when you want to have the whole of the fleet zero emission free, zero emission. Then perhaps important to talk about what kind of fleet are we talking about. We have, like the president of the meeting said, we have a huge set of waterways in the city of Amsterdam. We have our canals, of which we are famous of, but we also have bigger canals leading into the country. We have nearby Lake IJsselmeer, which is a very large internal lake, one of the largest in Europe. So there's a lot of possibilities to navigate through to the city, and navigate from the city, but also navigate through the city. So we have a big commercial fleet, boats that do touring boats, but also hospitality boats that use the water for recreational and leisure purposes. We also have a lot of large recreational fleet. Estimates about 12,000 people have a permit to stay with their own boat in Amsterdam, but obviously we have a lot of more visitors coming on a daily or weekly basis, particularly in the holiday season. And then we have the ferries. We have our own ferries as public transport because the waterways also cut the city in 2 parts. And for people to be able to cross the bigger waterways, we need our own ferries to offer people the opportunity to go around the city. and these are 16 ferries owned by the municipality. And then fourthly, we have obviously also transport over water, which is a growing segment, and in which we can bring cargo with our canal system from one place to another. And our action plan Clean Air focuses on all 4 categories, and our main goal is to be emission-free by with boating in 2030. And to reach the 2030 goal, we have set a 2025 first phase, in which we want to have this more centrally located area of the city already emission-free, which gives the opportunity for the other parts of the city to come in later. And then when you look at the commercial fleet, you can see that a large part of the commercial fleet is already emission-free, which is a big step. It's been taken by the boat owners and the companies themselves, and we're very happy with this. You can see that the green bars are emission-free boats, and the orange bars are in a sort of hybrid phase, and then the red bars are still fossil fuel powered. Mainly the larger tour boats that do tours through the canals. In that sector, there's still a lot of boats that are not emission-free, but the smaller tour boats that largely do the hospitality tours, most of them are already emission-free, which is also the case for the open boats and the boats that you can rent for yourself to go around in the city. And this is obviously the legal boats that have permits. We also have quite a few illegal boats, and these are still not fossil fuel, still fossil fuel powered and emission free. But these are the official commercial ships with a permit to sail and navigate through the city of Amsterdam. And for this sector, we have the goal to have all boats emission free in 2025. And most of the people working in the sector tell us that this is possible for them to do. And then the recreational fleet. This is obviously far more difficult because only a small part of boat owners already have an electrically driven boat. Most of them are still using diesel or gasoline or any kind of fossil fuel. So this is really a challenge for us. We're working with the harbors, obviously, to stimulate them to put in charging systems. We're talking with the organizations, the water sports organizations, to see if they can stimulate their membership to switch to emission-free boating. We also have a system in which you have to pay to put your boat in Amsterdam. In the whole of the canal system, you have to pay for it. But obviously, you pay less money if you have an emission-free boat. So we're looking at different ways to stimulate the recreational sector to be emission-free. And then the transport sector, we also aim that the transport sector can be emission-free in 2025. And this is a growing sector because we have a lot of difficulties with our quays and bridges to support all the logistics going in and out of the center of town. And we really stimulate people to shift by bringing in cargo by boat rather than by car or lorry. And so it's a unique way of using the canals more for cargo, but also to have a more rapid shift to emission-free, because for lorries and larger trucks, it's still a big problem to shift to emission-free transport. So one of the challenges is charging. I'm not going to say a lot about it because some of the other speakers in the meeting after me will be talking about that. But charging, particularly putting up public charging stations, is a challenge. We're investigating that right now. So to conclude my introduction, we're aiming at having our canals navigated by boats on zero emission in 2025 in the center and 2030 in the whole of the municipality. We've put our focus at the moment and bringing in charging infrastructure We have a lot of cooperation with the branches, both of the commercial fleet and also of the water sports organizations and harbors. We focus on these 4 pillars to introduce zero emission. And obviously, we're very keen on learning from other cities in the Netherlands, but also from abroad, how they're bringing in their zero emission goals. Then we add that for our own ferries, we're in the moment of now buying our own ferries emission-free as well. But this will also be it's a huge challenge for the city and a huge amount of money to shift within 10 years, like everybody else, from fossil fuel powered ferries to zero emission ferries. This is all for me, and I'm happy to give back to the president of the meeting right now.
Thank you very much, Mr. De Vries, for this introduction to the policy frameworks. Are there any questions from the audience about that? Okay. Maybe one question from my side. I mean, it's to totally ban electric boats and ships from the city center. This is I would say, a very brave political decision. So what would be interesting, how was it in the beginning? So did you also meet opposition to this decision? How was it? How was the reaction of, on the one hand, the commercial operators, but also from the private boat owners to that?
Well, there's actually a huge difference between these 2 sectors. So the commercial boat owners are among the front runners in going into going electric and zero emission. They're actually, some of them are pushing us to set our goals even faster than 2025 and 2030, because they already have in their own company everything electrified, and they say, we're looking to the future, you're looking to the past. So please push our competitors and other companies to go as soon as possible electric as well. And there's a little opposition to the 2025 goals. Everybody understands that they need to make a shift. Obviously, at the moment, with the COVID pandemic and the difficulties we have faced last year, there are some complaints because people were expecting to get in income and make some profits last year and the year before, and they couldn't, and they actually have a lot of financial problems at the moment. So we're also looking at that and how to help actually the sector surviving the COVID pandemic. This is a bit of a backlash, but in general, the commercial sector is very happy with it. On the other hand, the recreational sector, this is more difficult because it's still quite expensive to either buy an electrically different boat or change your own boat into a boat that's powered by an electric engine. So a lot of people are saying, oh, I understand your goal, I'm in favor of it, but it's very expensive for me, and how am I going to do it? So we're looking at a very difficult pathway next 10 years with the recreational boats, but there is a lot of political support for the overall goal, and this is the reason that we're working quite closely with the water sports organizations and associations, and with the organization of the harbors.
Yeah, thank you. You mentioned also in your presentation that you have also a stimulation pillar, and you just said, like, okay, it's related to cost, especially for leisure boat owners. Does your strategy also kind of include, let's say, pull mechanisms, financial incentives, or even financial support for private boat owners, or only also for private harbor owners and operators?
We're still elaborating on this policy, but there's one thing we already have established. As like I said, when you want to put your boat in the Amsterdam Canal system, you have to pay for a certain rent per year in order to be there. You get your permit. And we have a price differentiation between fossil fuel powered boats and electrically powered boats. They pay far less. So this is a way of financially stimulating electrically driven boats. But we're looking at other measures that we might have to take in order to stimulate the recreational sector in going fossil free.
Okay. Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. De Vries, for this introduction. Yeah, I think you have to leave now for another meeting.
Yeah,
and another
I'm very sorry. I have to meet other people in a meeting in a few minutes. But I was very happy in being in your meeting now, and I hope you have a very fruitful and discussion and a meeting.
Thank you very much, and for this very interesting introduction and presentation of the policy. Yeah. So this was the introduction to the policy framework, and it was already mentioned in the presentation of Mr. De Vries that one of the main challenges, of course, of electrifying boating and recreational commercial shipping in Amsterdam is to build up an adequate charging infrastructure to serve the, we have heard it, more than 12,000 leisure boats and more than 500 commercial recreational ships that are going around in the Amsterdam waters and in the city centers. So this is a huge challenge, and I'm happy now to welcome Mr. Roland Steinmetz, who is the Marine Charging Infrastructure Coordinator of the City of Amsterdam, and who will now present us a little bit more in detail how the city administration tackled this challenge and what is the approach and the strategy to establish charging posts for this big amount of vessels that soon will have to get electricity in the city center. So, Roland, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot. Just to check, can you see my screen and can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you and we can see your screen.
Okay. And I'm now also on camera, if that is also working, I suppose. So thanks again for having the opportunity to present a bit about the charging infrastructure plans and what has been established in the city of Amsterdam. I don't see any camera, so suppose I hope people are there. It's different to speak to just a blank screen, but if anybody puts on his camera, that's nice. Otherwise, I'll be talking to my computer for the moment. So the city of Amsterdam has just been explained by our mayor, De Vries, has a policy plan for zero emission, and I'll be focusing on the infrastructure part. Just giving a bit of a bigger picture on infrastructure, the city has an integrated approach for all charging infrastructure for all transport modalities. So the boating part is a smaller part. For the last 10 years, the city has been working also on a charging network for passenger cars, also for taxis, but light commercial vehicles, trucks, buses, and ferries. And studied just last year and made a strategy to look at how many charging points of what type do I need where around 2030, and now working backward from that vision of 2030, what do I need to do in the coming, let's say, 2 to 3 years? So it's part of a wider strategy for infrastructure. And of course, there's a lot of learnings from all the other infrastructure projects in the city, which can be applied in the charging infrastructure for boats. I'll be focusing on the passenger, what I call passenger or professional fleet, and recreational fleet. So that's the two types I'll be focusing on this presentation. Just some general remarks on the policy is for integrated approach is number one. The second is always look at the smart charging options to reduce grid impact. With the energy transition, there's an enormous strain on the electricity grid. In some areas, gas is introduced to heating in houses. In our area, it's now being removed since it's a fossil fuel, which means that houses need to be heated with electricity, increasing the grid yet again on the grid. A third sort of general policy is to build together with what is the demand of charging. Well, sometimes called chicken and egg discussion. You have to show as the city that you want to support zero emission, then you have to build a network, but it has to be in line with the number of users to prevent too much investment in a network that is not used, but on the other hand, to make sure that it's not overused or that there's no free space to charge your car or boat. So it's hand in hand, keeping monitoring what is the utilization of infrastructure. And another part of this policy is that it's always a combination of public and private charging. The city, of course, can organize public charging, but can't work on charging at private locations like private harbors or private parking garages. But the policy is used to support the companies and organizations to also install chargers at private locations. And the last, let's say, pillar of the policy is on active monitoring and implementing lessons learned. The monitoring, which I mentioned before, is important just to know what is the utilizations, what do the consumers, what do the users say. Those are the most important ones, because if the users are happy, there'll be more electric boats or cars. So now part one is on the passenger or professional fleet. The policy is to be completely zero emission in 2025. The idea is that there's one charger per ship with docks. You see in the bottom or on the top picture, there's a development plan which will be delivered next year. Every professional fleet boat has a charger on the dock charging overnight. At the moment, it's been organized by the ship owners for the last years, and now the city is taking more initiative to install the chargers by themselves or find an operator to install them. And there's more. There's plenty of projects like at the top picture where there's new infrastructure need to be installed, and also infrastructure which will be installed at the locations just around the city in public space. At the bottom picture, you see a smaller, which we also call the passenger or professional fleet. That is a hiring boat. They're all electric at the moment. So the complete professional fleet of hiring boats is already electric. They charge just at a small socket at the dock. The utilization profile, which also has to do with the business case, is quite well known for this type of infrastructure, because you know how much is going to be used over a year, how much is going to be hired. Of course, it differs a bit with if there's nice weather or bad weather in summer, but you know the fleet always returns every night, which is very different from putting a public charger like a fast charger for cars, where you don't know how many people are going to pass. Here, there's always one user. Some technical parts. If there is a question, I would be happy to reply directly. or if you have questions, you can put them in the chat as well. Otherwise, we'll have some Q&A at the end. Passenger fleet technical part, well, we aim at 40 kilowatt per ship for the larger fleet. So that is what we call rondvaart. If there's more at one location, you will have to install a transformer station, which has impact on public space. So it's quite a challenge to slot in those transformer stations. All prepared for smart charging. So if one ship charges at the beginning of the night and the other at the end of the night, that halves your energy or your connection demand, and probably also decreases the need for transformer stations. Other technical is on the battery use. So mostly are lead acid batteries. Very little use of lithium ion, which is of course with the two-wheelers and cars and trucks the typical standard, which also has impact on the type of charging and the charging duration. So at the moment there's no fast charging of electric boats, which I see in other countries around Europe, especially for power boats. Fast charging is used with the lithium ion. These type of boats all use traditional lead acid with about 200 kilowatt hour battery pack, which take them throughout the full day. So the battery pack is made that big that there's no need for charging during the day. And well, there's a picture of Jaap Schipper, who was supposed to hold this presentation before. This Jaap Schipper is organizer of a harbor, an e-harbour, which is a dedicated electric fleet harbor. And you see charging stations around the dock with different chocolates like the CEE red standard or the blue standard. That's been used for this fleet. Then to the recreational fleet. Well, as mentioned by the Vice Alderman Egbert de Vries, a lot of recreational boat. Small part is electric. The idea is to have the city center fully electric by 2025 and the rest of the city, the full city of Amsterdam, in 2030. We develop a charging network in public, but also we believe that charging in the private harbors in and around the city is very important because the boats are docked there anyway. Often there's a shore power connection, which means changing from a traditional fossil fuel boat to electric and charging there overnight is a lot easier than in public space. And now the incentive for the city of Amsterdam is at the moment a 70% reduction of the permit to dock your boat in the city. But that's quite a big change. And this is the financial incentive also to support the people to switch to electric boats. Some info on our view on the market characteristics. It is still early market, very different from other transport modalities. So there's retrofit and new build. There are, I think, 3 or 4 companies doing retrofitting, so you can bring your sloop or boat there and they build it in a battery pack and an electric drive. And the new build is picking up, but still very small compared to the traditional fleet. On charging, there is still a lot of development. So what we see here is a charging station, a public charging station with 4 sockets. That could be one part. Charging in harbors can be an option, but we believe there's more coming, like removable batteries or battery swapping. Oh, there's somebody needs to mute his microphone, thanks. Battery swapping, I believe, still can be a good option to prevent this overnight charging solution. So putting some battery swapping stations around the city. And there's different entrepreneurs also in the city of Amsterdam investigating and working towards piloting this battery swapping solution. At a later stage, fast charging can be an option as well when battery quality improves. But again, on the business case and the usage profile, the utilization of the charger, of course, a boat is used, let's say, 10, 20 times, a recreational boat 10, 20 times a year. That's very different from your passenger car, which is used almost daily. So also to build a good business case for these chargers is challenging. So what do we do at the moment? So there's a network of public chargers, the picture you saw on the previous slide, about 44 charging points around the city, supporting and also showing that it's possible. The first electric boat owners are being helped by this network. There's an innovation project to make chargers at houseboats. We support the harbors with a model to calculate how many chargers are needed and what would it cost. And we support the business network, try to give information, communication about the possibilities of e-mobility. And in future, we're looking at combining charging stations for cars. There are about 4,000 public charging stations in the city. Seeing if we can combine that also for electric boats. Conclusion on the passenger fleet, it's scaling towards 100% quickly. The business case for charging is quite clear. Technical solutions are quite clear. That is something just to scale for the city in the coming 3 to 4 years. At pleasure fleets, it's showing that it's possible doing pilots and learning and scaling in a year or two from now. Important to cooperate with entrepreneurs who have ideas and plans to make it happen, and with branch organizations of harbors and fleet owners. And so it's to communicate, to stimulate the use, facilitate with charging, and regulate is on the permit part. Thanks very much. That was my presentation. I'm curious to hear if there's any question.
Yes, thank you very much, Roland, for this overview on what is happening with regard to charging infrastructure, both for leisure boats and also for recreational commercial ships and boats. Are there any questions from the audience? Okay. From my side, you mentioned that you also assist private harbors in adapting their infrastructure to the new needs. And you mentioned that there is something like a calculation module and some help. So what kind, can you elaborate on this a little bit? What kind of assistance is it? What kind of model? So what is the assistance about there?
What you see is that there's a lot of unknowns for harbor owners on what does it mean when people start charging their electric boats. And often the first reaction is that you would need to have a very, very big grid connection for your harbor, because the idea can be that many people, when there's nice weather, everybody's going to use their boat and need to charge in one night, overnight, and need to use it again the next day. If you calculate, let's say, 4 kilowatts per boat and you have 100 boats, you would need to have a really big energy connection or grid connection. What the model helps is to see how many boats are really going to use it, what is the actual grid connection, and what is the use in parallel of charging. So, and of course, also next year, not all boats are going to be electric, because it's a gradual change toward 100%. So you don't have to install for 100% of the locations for all charging stations at the moment. So it helps you also to calculate the ideal grid connection and what is the cost. And we're now sort of calibrating the model. It's a first version. It's going to be tested in 3 harbors in the city, let's say the coming month. And in fall or Q3, I think we'll have the model distributed among the harbors in Amsterdam.
And is this model something that is free of charge for the harbors? Is it an assistance offered by the city, or is this something they also have to pay for?
Now it's now being offered by the city as part of the policy to support the harbors in installing charging infrastructure and not to over dimension and to install the right amount and the right type, and to make sure that there's the right standards, that the payment system for charging, for instance, is interoperable and works in other harbors as well. So there's information and knowledge supported by the city, which is part of the policy to support them.
You mentioned in your presentation also that, or you stressed that demand-oriented investments are very important, meaning to avoid too high costs, unnecessary costs, but also to avoid shortage of charging infrastructure. So what was the approach there of the city? How was this demand estimated? And if you look now at the plan that you may have drawn up some years ago and how it developed, did this estimation also work out? Would you do it again? Can you give some recommendations with this regard?
I must say that the data points for cars are ample. There's a lot of data points on cars, and the city's been modeling the demand, makes regional or local maps within a city is being made into, let's say, 20 or 30 different smaller areas. And the charging demand for cars is being predicted 3 to 5 years ahead in a model. That model has been analyzed and calculated back with the actual data and has been optimized. That works really well. For boats, pleasure boats, the data points are not yet there because these chargers are just installed this year. So the prediction for pleasure boats need to be, well, that's for the coming years that need to be made, and in 3 years from now we can calculate backwards. So that's for pleasure boats. That hasn't been done yet. For the professional fleet, it's just mainly one-on-one, one boat, one charger. So that's an easy model.
We have a question in the chat. I don't know if you noticed. So Michael asks if solar boats play a role, or photovoltaic infrastructure on the land side, does it play a role?
Yeah, so on the first question, solar boats, but there's the solar boat competition which has been in Friesland, in the north of the Netherlands, for many years now, which challenges also universities, but companies, bigger companies connected to university teams, a bit like the solar car race in Australia, that initiated a lot of innovation. But it's not so much that it plays a role at the moment in the boats we are looking at, and also in the pleasure craft. So some have solar panels, or have solar panels connected to a houseboat that you can charge from the houseboat. So it's at very small scale. On infrastructure on land, there are some examples of connecting photovoltaic to charging, but it's at very small scale as well. So just to, it's a policy to install a lot of PV on buildings, but it's very separated from the charging market.
Can I have ask one question to you?
Sure.
All energy battery chargers cause a quite big load for the local power grid. Are you thinking about using the energy banks, I mean the battery banks, to support the peak energy consumption in that application?
Yeah, it's a good question. The funny thing is that the boat is a battery bank as well.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so we haven't worked. We have ideas. I think if you have 12,000 floating batteries, which are recreational boat, there's a lot to do with so many batteries. Also to support the grid or to increase self-use of PV, for instance. But at the moment, it's not in the plan for the, let's say, the coming year to develop that further. For the bit heavier charging infrastructure, there are plans. So some fast charging stations have stationary storage to support the grid. But for boats, that's not in the plans yet.
Because in the future, when the many more electric mobility cars and boats will be involved in transportation, so it would be quite a big problem for the power grid. So I think this is another step for all cities, for all users of the electric transportations, to create some kind of additional energy storage bank, not only covered by batteries, maybe hydrogen. Do you think about it in the future?
Yeah, well, I think the next speaker, who is also working for a project in the city of Amsterdam, can explain a lot more, because that is SKOON, which is a movable battery. So I propose which is also in the city of Amsterdam. So I think we'll get some of the answers from the next speaker.
Okay, thank you.
Are there further questions? And as Roland said, you're also welcome to show your faces and to enable your cameras so that we have here an audience, because I think Roland and me, we feel a little bit like in the fog here at the moment. Maybe a follow-up questions from my side here. When we talk about the grid, on the one hand, we heard that you have 500 recreational ships and 12,000 leisure boats. This is more than, for example, we find at the entire coastline of Poland when we look at our area. But on the other hand, I also read about, you mentioned that you have 4,000 charging points already for electric cars. And I heard also that the goal may be go even to, I read about the number of 80,000. So the question is here from my side, how is it with this marine charging infrastructure? Is this, when it comes to the grid, is this then a factor, or is it just a small thing that you can deal with along with the transition in the, I would say, in the other modes of transportation?
The recreational boat, you could say, is just a household connection, and the load is even 1/10 of a normal household connection. So recreational charging infrastructure is peanuts for the grid operator. That is negligible. For the professional fleet, like 40 kilowatts, and you would have 100 of them, that is a different game. We're looking at 1 to 2 megawatt connections for the bigger harbors of the professional electric fleets. So there's a big transformer. We're now in discussion, of course, with the local grid operator called Leander. So far, that is not a problem yet, compared to indeed the number of cars, but especially what is next is a truck. And we believe that electric truck loading will be really big strain on the grid. And also bus chargers. That is quite a concentrated high power load, which can't be distributed too much. So it's an enormous challenge for the grid operator, but say the coming 10 to 20 years to get enough copper in the ground to support all the electrons.
Okay, if you look at the charging points that have been established already, you had 44 mentioned public ones, but you also said that, yeah, most of the points have been established by private partners. So who is investing at the moment? Who are the ones that are running and building up these charging points?
Yeah, so far the professional fleet owners, they have installed the charging infrastructure themselves. So they asked for the grid connection at the local DSO, the distribution system operator, and installed their own charging infrastructure. So that is how it's been for the last, let's say, 5 to 7 years. Now there's a movement by the city to take to make sure that the infrastructure is interoperable, that there are safety standards, that it can be used by different operators who switch from a berth location. So we're moving from one charger for one professional fleet owner to a sort of multi-user charging infrastructure. And the first projects are the ones that I showed, where the city is building new berth for professional fleet, while the city is building the berth and together is building the infrastructure.
You have been also talking about fast charging. Will that be, what do you think? Will that be, you said at the moment it's no factor. Will that change in the future?
I'm curious to learn from all the people that are in this call, because we're open to learn. What we mentioned, pleasure boat is open. But we've been working also with the cars and trucks and buses for the last 10 years. So there's a lot of battery knowledge in the city. And of course, we see the prices of lithium ion going down, let's say 10%, 15% per year for the last year. So the prices are coming down. The energy density is increasing. So it's becoming a much better option. But that is specifically for cars where there's a high usage profile. If you have a boat that works 10 times per year, there's not so much need to make it really sophisticated. So this recreational use is very different. Some use it maybe a bit more, but recreational use is not so intense. So I believe that the movable outboard option will be the preferred option, or one of the preferred options, because that battery is going to be lighter and cheaper in the coming years. So the part, let's say, to a 6-meter recreational boat can easily be done with a 10 kg battery pack that you can move and charge in your house and bring it to the boat. So that's one development where lithium ion is helping. But fast charging is probably in the professional fleet and in the high power boats, but they are not allowed in the city.
Okay, before we move on to SKOON, one last question from my side. I know, Roland, you also not only focus on marine charging infrastructure, this is rather a niche, but also into charging for electric cars. We had a discussion at a meeting some weeks ago, who could be kind of the ones investing and setting up charging points and charging infrastructure. And yeah, there was some hope that maybe, so when we look at the car sector, so we have mobility service providers and we have charging point operators, and this is kind of a, yeah, it's a business, and there are a lot of actors from that area. And there was hope that maybe there could be also spillovers to the marine sector, and these companies could also offer something for leisure boats or recreational boats. What do you think of this hope? Is this something that could be realistic?
Very good point, and it's true. I can confirm your hypothesis, because when we did this small tender for these public charging stations, there was a lot of interest. And there's cross-sector, well, almost cross-sector interest from the CPOs or charge point operators, the professional operators running networks of tens or hundred thousands of chargers, also to move into this area of e-boating. So the companies are there; they have the knowledge. There's a lot of experience on technical part, on how to organize it. The challenge is on the business case of these chargers. And that is where we'll have to find, well, we have to test with the CPOs, what is the good business model for this public charging. For car charging, the business model is that good that now CPOs are paying the city of Amsterdam to install chargers. So it's not at cost, but it's income for the city. If somebody wants to install a charger, he has to pay because there's so much income. That is a model, of course, we would like to go for, because it's good for everybody. The city doesn't have to pay, the CPO is earning money, and the e-boat owner can charge. And I believe a market can only fly when there's a business model. Of course, you can't keep supporting everything with the money from the city of Amsterdam. So I think that is the challenge for the coming year or two, to work on this business model for the CPO.
Okay, thank you, Roland. Actually, I wanted to release you now from this question and answer session, but we have one more question from the audience, from Jörg Wickler and Tansen Maritim. Are the professional fleet owners also the owners of the mooring areas if they organize and pay the charging infrastructure? That was the question.
Well, this is within Amsterdam that's true. Yes, the answer is yes, and that is also the answer why now the city wants to take a bit more control on this charging, like with car charging and other charging stations, because it's on public ground, it's public area. I believe that it's good that the city at least has some control and say over what is happening in their own public area. So, but of course, if a professional fleet owner installs a charger and pays for it, there's a discussion on it's the owner. But of course, public space is from the city of Amsterdam. So that is that will be a transition period, I believe. Now the city is installing their own chargers. There are chargers from the professional fleet owners, and with the gradual change over time, let's say that will take at least 5 years probably. There's a transition to ownership from the fleet owners to ownership by the city.
Hello, I have also one more question. Filip Gruszczyński from Szczecin. What do you think about existing infrastructure in the marinas for recreational boats? Maybe is it enough what already exists in marinas, because there is this electric infrastructure for the boaters, and the usage of this recreational boat is not so. They don't use the boat as often as commercial boats, so maybe it's enough, and there is no need to make some special infrastructure for the boaters. And that other question is about the connectors, because already existing infrastructure has a connectors like the blue one, yeah, and most of that. And then what are the connectors in this CBO chargers?
Yeah, I completely agree. So that is what the model we mentioned also indicates if you have shore power, which is also the blue CEE connector you mentioned. If you have shore power already, which is in some harbors, especially when it's a little bit bigger yachts or sailing yachts, for instance, there's shore power connector. There's electricity at every berth already. And the model that we are now optimizing also shows that if you have, it depends a bit on how that is connected to the grid, but often there is very little increase needed. If already all berths have the shore power connection, you could say for the coming years you're okay. You can already charge 10 or 20% of the electric fleet, because indeed often there's a longer time period. If you dock the boat at 6 and you want to go out at 10 in the morning again, there's enough time to charge it, and not all boats have to be charged at the same time. There comes in the smart charging component again. So true, if there's shore power, there's little increase needed, unless you want to go for 100% electric and charging all boats at the same time. And the second question, indeed, it's the blue CEE standard. I'm coming from car background, mode 3, of course, the charging type is very different from the CEE. I believe now the blue CEE is the de facto standard. It's just because it's there. But maybe there needs to be a discussion at European level to see whether this can be harmonized as well, also preventing investment from harbors around Europe in the wrong type. But at the moment, it's just the blue one.
Okay, thank you, Roland, for your presentation and also for your endurance in answering all the questions here from the audience. So I would suggest that we now move on to our next speaker, and this is Peter Paul van Vorst from SKOON Sharing. So it has been already kind of mentioned in the previous presentations that the demand for energy in the leisure and recreational boat sector, but also in other areas, of course, it has peaks. Of course, it is uneven off-season, during season, at night, at day. And infrastructure is also, of course, building it is a cost factor. And SKOON is a private company and has established a platform, an online marketplace for green mobile energies, and that enables companies to offer their batteries or also hydrogen generators to temporary assignments by energy users from the maritime sector and beyond. So you can say it's sharing instead of charging, instead of constructing charging infrastructure. This is the model, and I would like to give the floor now to Peter Paul van Vorst to tell us more about this very interesting complementary approach.
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you all for taking the time to listen to our story. And I'll start on request also of the organization with a funny story. Just after I confirmed that I'd be speaking here, I received a letter from Leander, who's our local grid operator, the one that Roland mentioned a couple of times already. And they told me, you will have a power outage Wednesday, June 9th, between 9 and 11:30. I thought that's exactly the time that I'm supposed to give a webinar, but we're a battery sharing company, so who would I be not to use a battery? So I'm actually running this presentation on a portable battery, completely off-grid. I could go for 5 hours when I look at the battery and the energy usage. I won't, I'll keep it short. But I think that's a funny story. I'm a resident of Amsterdam, happy resident of Amsterdam, and also an electric boat owner. So a lot of the things that Roland said before are very familiar. So just to give you some background of where I am, and that this presentation is actually also being run off mobile batteries. And that's what we're here to talk about today. I'm Peter Paul van Voorst. I'm the founder of SKOON Energy, and we founded SKOON around 3.5 years ago because we saw three main challenges. First of all, these generators are all over the place. They are providing energy to construction sites, to events, to all kinds of locations where they need energy for temporary use. But as a young person, it's my passion and strong opinion that these generators are not part of the future and should be phased out as soon as possible. But at the same time, I also saw that when you phase them out, you're going to strain the electricity grid a lot more, and that the electricity grid will not be able to support that. So we need energy storage technology to maintain the balance in the electricity grid, and it was mentioned by the previous speaker for several applications already, that batteries are definitely going to play an important role, either stationary or mobile. And then lastly, and today most importantly, the route to electrification for cities is very unpredictable. We don't know where we're going to be in 5, 10, 30 years. We don't know how much energy is going to be used. We have forecasts, but if we look at forecasts of 10 years ago about today, those forecasts were not correct. And we need to be sure that we are flexible and that we can work with modular solutions that, based on where they are needed, can be deployed, so that we're not, as Roland also mentioned it, putting copper in the ground until we meet all the demand. So just a quick overview of what we do as SKOON. First of all, we develop new solutions to accelerate the energy transition, meaning we test new concepts, we test new solutions, such as you see in the picture here, a floating battery that can be pushed around the canals of Amsterdam with an electric boat, making transport a lot cheaper and a lot less straining for the city. Second, we have, as was mentioned in the introduction, a marketplace where we bring together all the solutions that are out there. So all the different battery trailers, portable batteries, such as the one I'm running the presentation on, container batteries, and also in the future, hydrogen generators. And on top of that, when you're booking that, you can also include solar panels, fire chargers, and everything to make sure that you have a full solution at a good cost, so that the business case is leading in making the decision. And then lastly, we develop software to implement artificial intelligence to the daily operations of these companies. Many of these companies are startups or new in what they're doing. It's new for everybody. So we need these algorithms to help us take strategic decisions. We cannot keep relying on Excel models. We need to implement artificial intelligence on all these levels. And that's what we do by developing two main software products that I'm showing in this slide. First of all, if we look at the asset owners, those are companies that own these batteries and that own these hydrogen generators. For them, we connect them to energy users. So these energy users are construction sites, film sets, events, but in a very rapidly growing number also charging and shore power for ships. We connect them on our first main software product, SKOON Sharing, which is the online marketplace where we bring together these two groups. What we do by bringing them together is matching the energy profile and energy demand of the energy user, together with the energy profile and the technical capabilities of the asset owner. And this is done based on our learning algorithms that are constantly matching so that you always have the most optimal and therefore also the most cheapest solution. And because these asset owners are also growing rapidly, they are expanding their fleets, they are going into new markets, they are hiring more team members, they also need software to run their own company. And that's what SKOON Suite is for, to really implement artificial intelligence in all the levels of their daily operations. We call it rental management and can be fleet management also for those companies that own the batteries for their own internal use. So these two software products we are constantly developing to make sure that it's as cheap and as easy as possible to switch to completely clean energy solutions. And because the presentation of Roland was also very intelligent and had a lot of numbers, I thought I'll go the other way around, and I'll take this presentation to a more practical and maybe inspirational level by showing you pictures of real life projects that have been going on or that are going on in and around Amsterdam. Just to show you that this is not some futuristic story or some fantasy. This is actually happening already. And this is also thanks to the city of Amsterdam that we're working closely with, and that are not slowing us down in any way. On the contrary, they're accelerating our efforts to implement clean energy. And what you see here in the picture is one of the battery containers in our network, a 600 kilowatt hour, 550 kilowatt battery container that is developed for ships also to be used on board the ship. But it's multi-usable, so we can use them for many different applications. And in this case, it's on its way to the construction site that you see in the back of the picture, the replacement of a bridge. And there they had two main issues. One is they were transporting most of the construction materials by water, so through the canals of Amsterdam, with an electric boat. And what we see, and what Ronald also mentioned, is there is an increasing number of electric professional pusher boats or tugboats that are being used for these water transport solutions, and they need to charge. And they have a difficult choice to make when they're constructing such a boat. They have the option: do we invest in so many batteries that we know we will be able to run the full day of operation on one charge and charge at night? Or can we rely on charging solutions in and around the places where we will be transporting to? So in this case, they're transporting to the bridge, and they know that at the bridge, our battery container is there to charge, to top charge them while they're waiting, having a lunch break, having a coffee break, or waiting for their transport to be ready. And of course, we want that last solution, because that makes the investment for them a lot cheaper and makes it possible for them to not invest in one electrical boat, but maybe in two, because they can split the battery in half, because they can rely on charging solutions on location. But this was not because there was such a big grid connection at the location. There was a small grid connection which could slowly charge our battery container, and then our battery container was used as the energy buffer, that when these boats come, they can fast charge. When other equipment comes, like this crane, they can also use the high power connection. So this container on its own makes the power output of the construction site 8 times higher than it was before we came there. So there was a there was an electricity connection that was just enough for the accommodation unit, for maybe some small machinery. But when this crane came, they had to use the diesel generator. And of course, within the canals, you don't want that. It's very noisy. The fumes, they get stuck between the buildings, and it's very smelly. So our battery container was not just used to charge the electric boats, but also used to power these larger machines that are used for, in this case, the bridge. And as I told you before, these batteries, all the different sizes we have in our network, are increasingly used for shore power, and shore power in the city, but also shore power outside of the city. And this is a bit of a bigger example, but on the left side you see the super yacht Calypso, beautiful super yacht built by a Dutch shipbuilder, Fetchit. And they were there for around 10 days, and they had to do some maintenance on this location, and they wanted shore power because, of course, within the ring of Amsterdam, we don't want to be polluting. So they requested shore power, but the location didn't know if their shore power connection was strong enough. So we included the battery in between the shore power connection and the super yacht. And this is just to show you it's also possible on a very large scale. And it's already being done today. The same thing we've done, or we're constantly doing actually, with the Port of Amsterdam, where they have their own shore power connections for river cruise vessels, for example. They have a lot of berthing spots next to Amsterdam Central Station. And these didn't suffice when there were busy times, or when maybe these shore power cabinets were down. So our battery container is constantly in use there. It's going to be used next week again. So for anybody who is in Amsterdam, do feel free to send me a message and come and visit the location and the battery there, because it's really cool to see. And I've shown you a couple of real-life large-scale pictures. But of course, what I mentioned there, the recreational boats, I have a little one myself, they are very small, and they just need a top-up charge maybe for 1 hour, and that's almost no extra strain on the grid. But what if there's no grid available at all, or there's no public plug available at all, and it's a beautiful summer day? Well, we even have solutions for that. This is a small battery trailer that anybody with a normal car driving license can tow behind their car. And we could bring this, for example, to the hotspots where people are taking a break. Maybe next to a supermarket where they are already going berthing to, or docking to get a beer, or to get some picnic to continue their trip. But on beautiful summer days, we can have several of these spread out throughout the city, so that for those people that don't have charging solution at home, or that want to sail for longer on a day, that they can still power their boats, charge their boats. And we will be doing this also together with other startups in Amsterdam. We'll be cooperating with them so that it's a seamless system for boat owners to use this. And as was hinted towards before, there are entrepreneurs also working on the battery swapping solution. And you can imagine that with our software, we are definitely one of those companies looking into battery swapping on the boats itself, and to have the little batteries that I'm running this presentation on as a power tool, or as a mobile charging solutions for these boats. That's definitely something we're looking into. So I think my main message today is also make sure to test a lot of new things, and to talk to the customers and test if they like it, if they see problems with it, if they see impracticalities, or if they see whatever. And if you do it well, then you're going to look like my colleague Pepijn, with a big thumbs up, that we had another happy customer like the Port of Amsterdam, and that we took another step in making sure that clean energy is even simpler and even more affordable than it was before. And I'm also very excited to hear your questions on this.
Thank you very much, Peter, for this presentation, and having a look into battery and generator sharing as an alternative way to provide charging. Are there any questions from the audience?
What is the maximum power that you can deliver from your battery banks?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So the maximum power we can deliver from the container that you saw before is 550 kilowatts. Mm-hmm. But if we connect the different containers in series, we can go infinitely.
As I remember correctly, 500 kilowatts, yeah?
Yeah, 550. 550.
550. What is the maximum capacity?
Of this container, it's 630 kilowatt hours.
630.
And in our network, soon we will have the first 1 megawatt hour 20-foot container.
Are you created a battery bank by yourself? Are you created power converter by yourself? Or do you do with any consortium?
So the container and the trailer we designed ourselves. And the trailer we also built ourselves in the back of a garage. And the container we built in a consortium. And also the designs of the two of them we're sharing openly with anybody who wants to build them. And then making sure that we share all the lessons we learned, what the customers want to see, where the plugs have to go, what the maximum weights are, all those things.
Mm-hmm. Are you interested in any cooperation with creation new types of power converters? Because I represent Electrotechnical Institute in Warsaw, in Poland, where we can design and create and build up the prototype version of power converters up to a few megawatts. For example, for your information, we have created a solution, kind of power supply for ships mooring in the port. With the power up to 4 megawatts continuous power, 6 megawatts temporal power. It's going forward to the European Union directive, which allows only to power supply from port and is forbidden to use the internal combustion engine in few years. So we have prototype version of that kind of power supply system. Is there any chance to cooperate with you with any other projects in that field?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That sounds interesting, and I'm excited to hear some details and see if we can cooperate. My email address is on the screen right now. I'm the guy on the left side. So if you could email me some information, I'll get back to you.
Okay. So thank you.
So Peter, you mentioned that on the one hand you have at offer your own solutions, so the battery container and also the battery trailer, and on the other hand, via this SKOON sharing platform, you also involve other asset owners and offer them kind of to offer their solutions. So question here is, who are these asset owners? This is one question. And the second question is, I mean, your ambition is to offer clean energy. Can anybody be an asset owner that is promoted or that is using the platforms, or are there certain requirements set by you before you can offer your assets?
Yeah, so we have two types of asset owners in our marketplace. And the main type is rental companies, so dedicated rental companies that invest in fleets of batteries for their own rentals, and also for rentals of other systems or through platforms like us. The second type is, as we call them, side business owners. So these are companies that buy batteries or hydrogen generators for their own use, such as a construction company. They use it for their own projects, but it's too expensive for them to have it just sitting in the garage if they're not using it. So as soon as they don't need it, we make sure to rent it out for them so that they're getting a better return on their revenue. and that they can buy a new one faster. The requirements are mostly done on product level, not necessarily on company level, because we can also take care of the service and the management of these systems. So for anybody who has a bag of money laying around and wants to invest in a battery, that is possible, and that could be done with your name on it, with your stickers on it, and we can take care of everything when it comes to software, maintenance, management, rental, warranty, or yeah, everything that's included in the ownership of the battery.
If we have a look to the customer side, the energy users, so who is currently using your offers? I mean, we have learned that the professional shipping is much more advanced when it comes to electrifications than the leisure boat shipping. Do you have customers from both sides? And concerning the leisure boats, do you also see already private boat owners and maybe also marina operators, leisure boat port operators among your customers?
Yes, definitely, and the biggest group of customers right now is professional companies, construction sites that need to build without emissions, film sets that want to run their film set with no noise of the generators, but definitely also marinas. We're in talks with several of them for these marinas to have a modular solution so that they don't need to invest in a base load that is only needed 3 times a year, for example. And they need these modular solutions also because they don't even, when they request a bigger grid connection, they don't even get it because the grid is strained in the Netherlands or in Amsterdam. So that's one reason for these marinas to join. And we're actually in the pilot phase with some private owners to see if we can, if it's feasible to launch a battery swapping solution that like with the battery that is right next to me now. And this is really fun about being a boat owner myself. Last night I was out on the water, started talking to someone, and this girl said, "Oh, I thought about it this morning. I would just like to send a WhatsApp to someone. Hey, can you bring me a battery? This is my location," and then get it. And this is exactly the type of service we're currently researching if it's feasible or not. Maybe it's not feasible. It's fun. So maybe we'll just do it as a fun project because it is a lot smaller scale than most of the business we're doing. But it's definitely something we're looking into.
Are there further questions from the audience? We have been talking now about batteries mainly. I found in the information about your company also that you also offer or want to offer hydrogen generators. What is the status of this field? Does it already play a role, and how do you see the prospects for these offers in the future?
Yeah. So always when we help a customer, when we come up with a clean energy solution for them, the first step is, what is your peak power? So what is the moment that you need the power boost? Based on that, we choose a battery. Based on that, we choose how much power the battery or how big the battery needs to be. But the battery is empty at some point, so it's merely storage. It's just a storage medium. And what we look for next is, how long do you need the power for? So what is the capacity you're going to need? And we always try to get the capacity from a grid connection that's cheapest, and to use the grid connection to charge the battery and then the battery to provide the peak power. But there is an increasing number of applications where there is no grid connection available, or where it's way too small to cover the capacity. In those cases, we don't want to use diesel generators to charge them. So we look at hydrogen generators. So this is to charge the batteries and not as a standalone solution. It's always something that comes together. And the status of that is, it is possible nowadays. It is being done all the way up to 250 kilowatts of constant power output. But it's for the rich of the world. It's an expensive solution most of the times because of the logistics of the hydrogen and the origin of the hydrogen. So we are working with an energy company and the Port of Amsterdam here in Amsterdam to get local green hydrogen supply going, to get that price down, and then also to have a logistics company for the hydrogen. And that actually looks pretty promising because everybody is aware of the opportunities and also the risk if we don't do it now. So it is definitely in its beginning phases. It's expensive for most of the users, but where it's being used, people are happy, and yeah, we do see a lot of opportunities there.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Jens, I have two more questions, technical questions. Have you been testing your batteries in negative temperatures? I mean below -10 centigrades, -20 centigrades. This is first of my question, and how about the results of these tests looks like. And second, my question is, do you have any fireproof systems in your containers? Because as we know, battery banks has a lot of energy density, and sometimes it could be some problems with fire. So do you have any protection systems, fire extinguishers? So two questions.
Yeah, two, I think, very relevant questions. So beginning of this winter, we actually had a -15 week, that we had a week of snow and -15. And all the batteries were in the field and were working. And the good thing about the battery is that it doesn't radiate a lot of heat, but just enough to keep itself warm. So it definitely passed that test very well. And just as an example, the little trailer, was on a construction site close to my house, and it was my duty to keep that one alive. And the only thing I had to do is just make sure that it's being used. So as long as you're cycling back and forth, the temperature within the cells stays above 0, and then it's perfectly fine. So that went really well. And on all the systems, we have fire safety equipment on all levels. For example, the batteries that we use in the pictures that you saw are lithium iron phosphate batteries, not lithium nickel manganese cobalt batteries. So that means these batteries do not contain cobalt, meaning they don't have the cobalt oxide that has the low burning point or the low inflammation point. I think that's what it's called in English. So they don't catch fire like you might have seen in other batteries. And in all the systems that we have monitoring on cell level, modular build. So all the cells are separated from each other, that if you get a thermal runaway event, even in the NMC batteries, you don't spread that to the rest of the container. And then the container as well has extinguishing equipment. Depending on the type of batteries in it, it's either CO2 or it's water or it's whatever. And we're closely working also with the fire, how do you say that? The fire guards, with the fire authorities, to also keep them updated on what technology is in there. And we're actually connecting a software system to their software system, so that they're constantly being kept updated which technology is located on which location and what the manuals are in case of fire, either within the system or outside of the system.
Okay, thank you. I see that Dimitri, you have unmuted your microphone. Do you have a question?
Yes, I did. Jan, you was asking about hydrogen generator, and from the answer of Peter, I didn't clearly understood. That's the solution he has about hydrogen generator or about fuel cell?
That's a good question. So when we mention hydrogen generator within our company, that's always a fuel cell.
It's always a fuel cell, and you need some hydrogen liquid or high pressure hydrogen supply. Yeah.
Both. So it's either in the form of ammonia, that you have a local cracker system to crack the H3 of the NH3, or it's in high pressure. So at between 200 and 300 bar.
Thank you very much.
Are there further questions? Okay, maybe one last question from my side to you, Peter. So you're a startup. I guess you have ambitions for the further development, and at the moment you are active in the Amsterdam area, but I think also going over to other parts of the Netherlands. So do you also have ambitions to offer your solutions in other parts of the world?
Yes, definitely. We actually are offering part of our solutions globally already. So if we look at the designs, for example, and how to get a business in this field started, we are already helping several companies globally to get started. So we have a guide for that. We have an onboarding, like an academy, and that we support local companies to get their clean energy rental business going. And that's of course with a good reason, because we want them to start using our SKOON suite, the rental management software. That is something that is used globally, and that can be booked by any of the people in this call as well. And the marketplace, that's a more local business, more geographically constrained. That is something we're slowly scaling in the wake of the SKOON suite users. So if all 40 of you say we're going to start a business, we're going to start using SKOON suite, that's enough incentive for us to also then start SKOON sharing and really scale up the clean energy business in your area.
Okay. So one more thing, further questions. I learned that the questions come in the last minutes in this group. So, okay, but no further questions. Then thank you very much, Peter, for your presentation and finding time for us today. Although you had an audit, and I think you are also very busy, because I learned also that this season boating is opening again, and for the summer in Netherlands. So yeah, not the perfect timing for the seminars, but this is something we could not foresee when we planned it. So thank you very much for your presentation. Yeah, I would suggest that we now go into our grab a cup of coffee break. It's 15 minutes, and then at 11 o'clock we will go on, and with a different perspective into some use cases for e-boats and e-ships, and we will have a look to the very diverse rental boat and ship market in Amsterdam, and we will have two presentations. On the one hand, Freek van Koolbergen will, from Boat Now, will present a platform in which skippered e-boats and e-ships are offered in, I would say, in an innovative way. And then next and last but not least is Ivan de Ploeg from Sloepdelen and also from Let's Book, who is was one of the pioneers, I would say, the early ones in renting electric boats, and who is offering fully automated bareboat charter. So two very different solutions that we will learn about, and which definitely have also a potential to be somehow adapted in our area. So 15 minutes break at 11 o'clock. Please be back, and then we will go on for the last session. Thank you very much. welcome back to our ELMA seminar on electric water mobility in Amsterdam. Yeah, it is now time to have a little bit different view now on e-boating and e-shipping, recreational e-shipping in Amsterdam, and to look a little bit about use cases for e-boats and e-ships. When you come to Amsterdam, first you are impressed because there are so many, at least that's what I felt. I was impressed because there were so many bikes all around. And then in the next moment, I looked at the canals and then I saw, oh, and there, it's really crowded on the water. And there are a lot of ships and boats around as well. And for me, not having grown up close to the water, this was maybe even more impressive for me. Among these boats that you find on the waters, there are also a lot of vessels that you can rent, either skippered or either bareboat, so that you can go with them yourself. And yeah, there is a really big diversity of different rental offers in Amsterdam, and we have selected for the seminar two which we found interesting and also innovative, and which will be now presented in more detail. And the first one is Boat Now. It's an online rental platform for private skippered e-boats and e-ships. And yeah, I'm happy to welcome now Freek van Koolbergen, who is the co-founder of Book Now and also a captain at Book Now, and who will now tell us more about the concept and the offer of Boat Now. So, Freek, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Yes, perfect. Thank you for the invitation. First of all, can you all see my presentation screen?
Yes, it's
Perfect.
visible. It's fine. But
So,
we cannot see you at the moment.
No, that just got, somebody took it out, but I can turn it on again, sure. Perfect. So my name is Freek. I'm the founder of Boat Now. As said before, we are a private boat rental platform, including a captain. We mostly do the hospitality sector, and what we made is a web and mobile solution for private boat rental. From the 550 boats that are licensed in Amsterdam, only 150 are used for the hospitality sector. The rest are either tour boats or the bareboats, the drive-yourself boats, as I call them. What we did in 2019 was around 20K passengers, and we had a net revenue of 250K, which was break even. And we're raising some capital to grow further. But let me first introduce you a little bit into the boating scene of Amsterdam. We have several boat types that go into the canals. First of all, we have the open boats, which are lovely with this weather as today or these weeks, from 1 passenger up to 50 people. Nowadays, with the corona restrictions, it's a little less, of course, to keep some distance between each other. But these are mostly used in summertime. But we also have boats that are classic boats, which are mainly used during winter time or business events, private dinners, but also during the winter time in December and January, we have a Amsterdam Light Festival. The Amsterdam Light Festival consists of art pieces all around the canals, and this extends our somewhat seasonal work with 2 extra months in December and January to show everyone outside or locals as well the beautiful Amsterdam also by night. But next to big open groups and the private business groups, we also have romantic tours a lot in Amsterdam. So wedding proposals, but also hotel guest concierge make a lot of use of the smaller private tours. And last but not least, there is the bigger boats. So you have the ferries. Egbert de Vries already told about in the introduction of this web seminar that the ferries are not all of them are electric yet. There are 6 of the 16 ferries are electric. You can see them on the bottom page, and the top boat is the bigger boats that are used for transportation of bigger groups. So when there are bigger events, this is the easiest way to get from A to B, is by big electric boats. Now, I showed you a little bit about the boating scene in Amsterdam, but what does Boat Now do? Well, I was a captain 3 years myself as a student, and what I noticed was that single tickets you could buy on every corner. So to buy a single ticket for a shared tour, it wasn't that difficult. Tours and tickets are everywhere here, but the problem was I had at least a couple times a day people tried to stop me while I was working to ask if I could if they could rent my boat. And I said, well, at the moment I'm busy, but maybe I can arrange something for you. And since I had that question multiple times a week or multiple times a day, I developed an ID. And that ID was first a WhatsApp group with some captains and colleagues to request to help them with the boat they want. And what we developed is at the end is a mobile app where you can request the boat on demand, and within 60 let me show you the next slide, apologies. What we developed is an application where you can request a boat on demand on 130 pickup locations in Amsterdam. So we have a live feed location through IES system, so you can track the boats as well. What we do have noticed lately that Boat Now is not only Boat Now, but Boat Now is starting to get to Boat Later as well, since the majority of people do tend to book a boat in advance, at least a week or 5 days ahead. So they're sure of their boat trip. So we have both Boat Now for instant demand, mostly used at the moment by concierges and hotels, but also by some locals. And then next to that, we have a Boat Later platform on our website where you can request several boats, a quotation, and you can pick out your favorite boat. So this is a short introduction of what Boat Now does and what Boat Now is at the moment. Since last Saturday, we're finally open again to rent out boats. We're looking forward to keep growing with Boat Now. So there was a short presentation, but that's Boat Now at the moment. I was wondering if anyone has some questions.
Yes, thank you very much, Rick, for this presentation. Are there questions from the audience? Yeah, maybe a question from my side as an introduction. You have skippered boats at offer, as I understood, only skippered boats.
Correct.
So who are the ones that offer here the boats? Are these individual boat owners, or do you also have fleet operators here integrated and offering boats on your platform?
So in Amsterdam, you need a license to rent out your boat. So we only work with licensed boats. And from those 550 licensed boats, only 150 are used for private boat rental, as we call it, hospitality sector. So we only you're not allowed to rent out your boat if you don't have a license. So we only work with fleet owners or single single private boat owners who do own a license. So there's some shipping company who have 10 licenses, and some of them only have 2 licenses. So that depends on the shipping company, but always a shipping company.
And I understand that the license responsible are the authorities, so the city authority or water authorities, and this is kind of the requirement to be able to offer. Or do you set also other requirements on top of this?
No, you need a license to rent out a boat in Amsterdam, and that's also required to be on boat now. These licenses are brought by the municipality, and every 2 years there are it's a lottery where you can get a new license in every 2 years. There's recently been a new shift of 150 licenses.
What is the share of electric boats and that you offer on your total offer?
95% of them are electric. So there are a couple of bigger boats who are still in the process of getting to electric, but almost any boat is electric at the moment.
Okay. Do you see differences between those who are renting conventional boats and electric boats? Is it a different group of customers, or is it just kind of the same?
I don't really think it's a different type of customer, but the experience is different, especially on a more smaller boat. It's lovely to have no noise at all. So the experience is definitely. I've been cruising around 3 years on an electric boat in Amsterdam, and the whole experience of not having any engine sounds. I like it personally, but some people do prefer a diesel sound.
So you mentioned also that you are boat later now, but your original idea and your core idea is boat now. And you also said you have 130 pickup points in the city center, and that it is kind of also kind of on demand. So can you explain us a little bit more how this works? So how can the client get in contact with the boats, and how does the interaction between client and boat owner looks like then?
Yeah, we developed the app which does a request. So you fill in your name, your email address, your phone number, and the type of boat you like. So you either want an open boat, a classic boat, a romantic boat, or a big boat. These are the 4 options you have. And we're looking at the exact number of people you're with. And then we check on the availability of these boats. So you send out a request, and you're at the city center of Amsterdam. And at that time, 40 or 50 boats are chosen that are available for you. And we have a captain's app as well for the fleet owners. So they get a push notification, and they receive a request for, hey, somebody wants to be picked up at Central Station. Are you available, or can you be there within 60 minutes? And most of the times there's like 30 boats requested, and 10% is available. So 4 or 5 respond with a quotation, and then the customer can choose between those 4 options which one he or she prefers.
Do you have a promise about the time in which you can provide a boat to a customer?
At this moment, we provide it within 60 minutes is the deal.
And about the pickup points that you offer, what kind of locations are these? Are these private locations or public locations? And also, are all boats then kind of offered at these pickup points, or what is the concept of this?
Yeah, these 130 pickup points are open pickup points. So in Amsterdam, we have several open locations where you can park your boat for just a short period of time. Some of them are better pickup points than others, but most of them are well known and good. So all these 130 pickup points are open to anyone and are not privately owned.
Yeah. Are there further questions from the audience? Okay. Yep, there is one question from Julia. And she asked, how did you make people aware of this offer, and yeah, was it difficult to establish yourself?
That is a good question. That's actually a really good question, because we wanted to, well, what we first did was offline marketing. So we had some banners and some flyers to the hotels. Especially for the hotels, it's a convenient system. They are quite busy, especially in 2019. It was a busy year when there were 18 to 20 million tourists in Amsterdam. So if a concierge could make some time, could win some time with the private boat rental system, they would make use of it. But next to it, it is quite difficult to make a step to download an application for a one-time use. So we underestimated the use of the Boat Now app, which is mostly used just that one time when you're in Amsterdam, or maybe a couple of times when you're actually working there or a local. So there's also a lot of advertisement in either social media or AdWords. Yeah, so it's still difficult. It's still a challenge to get to know people, or get to promote the application and get it to be used.
Are you focused on internal combustion engines to drive your propellers, or you have some electric solutions in your fleet?
So Boat Now as a platform does not own any boats. We only provide the service of the application and the website. But as said before, all of our boats, so 95% on our website, are fully electric.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So you mentioned that you have kind of citizens using this offer, and on the other hand, you said, okay, to reach out directly to tourists, there is this barrier of having a app to be downloaded and perhaps also to register or something. So when you look at but I understand that via the hotels you still reach out to tourists. So when you look at the share of residents and tourists using your offer, so what is it? Who is the main group for you?
Yeah, lately it's been changing, of course, with the COVID. But in 2019, we had 50% locals. It was a 30% to 40% tourist, and a 10 to 20% business cases. So any business events for, yeah, anything else. So mainly still locals in Amsterdam, 50%, a growing tourist market. What you do notice that mainly the tourists already book a single ticket tour when they hop out of either the airplane or the train in Amsterdam, because on every single corner you can buy a single ticket tour. So yeah, that's the how it's divided at the moment. And what we notice right now, it's more local, so 80% local. 10% tourist and 10% business events who are finally allowed again. So yeah, that's it.
Special times, yeah. So, but they may change again, hopefully soon. Are there further questions?
Yes,
Julia, you're also very welcome to ask your question directly and yourself. You did it last time, so I know that you're not, that you Do you do that? Would you like, or should I ask this question?
Sorry?
So I was talking to Julia, who had a question in the
Oh yeah,
chat.
I can see it. The question was,
so,
is it a boat ride that booked by one person group, or could it also be a shared ride? What do people like? So at the moment, we only do private boats. So it's by a person that books for the group, and it's not a shared ride. Of course, we have tested a little bit about also shared rides, but at this moment we only do private boat rental. So it's just the group.
further questions? You mentioned that you said like boat now and also boat later, for booking over a kind of pre-booking in advance. So what is the difference here for the users? Do you offer the same user interface and also the same, I would say, captain interface for both offers, or are they different?
Yes, there's a difference between the two. With Boat Now, it's we send out a lot of requests to several boats, and with Boat Later, it's more of a pick and choose which boats do you like, and we recommend several others that are similar, so you can still choose between a couple of boats and a couple of quotations. Because people do tend to especially when it's a private tour, they either want to be picked up at a special location on one of these 130 pickup points, or they want some drinks on board, they want some food on board. So we specialize that. But what we do on our website, it's we have a dashboard for the shipping company where they can use all of have an overview of their bookings. And with the Boat Now, it's more an on-demand, and it's more, are you ready right now? Then please say yes and pick this group up. So yeah, there's a difference in both of them.
Maybe one more question about the payment procedure here, and also about a little bit, of course, your business model. So your platform also, is this something where you direct to the boat owners for this, or is this something that also your platform provides for them as an help? This is first question. And second question is also, so what is kind of the model here? I guess there are fees. Do you charge the fees directly from the customers or by the captains and the boat owners? So what is the model here?
Yes, of course. Our business model is a 15% commission on every tour. It's also only the boat rental. So the payment is always directly to the shipping company. We're not between that. So payment goes to the shipping company, and we send an invoice later for 15% of the boat rental.
Are there any further questions to Freek? Okay, if not, then I would have a last question. Also, I understood you are a startup. And also to you, the question, you are now, I think, active in Amsterdam. Do you have also ambitions to offer your solutions at other places and locations?
Yes, we are always interested in looking abroad. At the moment, we're still recovering from last year, but we're definitely always interested in looking for opportunities to outside of the Netherlands, or even outside, or either outside of Amsterdam. So yes, of course.
Okay. Yeah. No more questions, I see. So then, thank you very much, Freek, for your time in these busy days for you. And I think, I think it's yeah, you look maybe also forward to get back into the full business again after this very hard time, as you said. So thank you that you still find some minutes for us today.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this was a platform that was about skippered boats at offer for charter. And for the last presentation of today, I would now like to invite Ivan de Ploeg, who is the founder of Sloepdelen, a boat rental company, and co-founder of Let's Book, who also offers a booking software. So yeah, we now go from skippered ships to fully automated bareboat charter, or like Freek said, boats that you drive yourself, or drive yourself boats. And Sloepdelen is, yeah, it's one of the biggest companies, and but also a pioneer in the field of renting out electric boats. And if I'm informed correctly, you started as early as in 2007 and have now kind of developed both your offers, but also the fully automated systems in-house and step by step. And yeah, so Ivan de Ploeg, so the floor is yours. And just to tell a little bit, I think, the story of your operations, and also what you have to offer in Amsterdam and the Netherlands, but maybe also to other cities and locations.
Okay, my voice isn't the way it should be, but I'm perfectly well. But can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can see your presentation.
Okay, that's very good. That's very good. Yeah, I want to bring you along on the journey which we are making, and which we actually started in 2007, like you mentioned. We own several boat rental operations. One of them is Sloepdelen, which is the largest, which is active in Amsterdam. And yeah, we have a couple of boat rental operations. So we also do toured boats. That's something which I will not go into detail in this presentation. And later on, we developed Let's Book. Let's Book is it's a boat rental system which we developed based upon all the experience which we gained over the past years. So how we became the largest electric boat rental operation in Dutch cities, and maybe even in whole of Europe. I don't know. I don't know any other electric boat rental operation which has the size and the level of professionality as we have. But you can see that all over Europe and also in other countries that you see new boat rental operations popping up, and it's getting more and more popular. Like I said, we run a large boat rental operation, but now we use that knowledge to also help other boat rental operations all over the world to start, and we do that in Europe, but also in the United States and in Australia. But first of all, this is me, of course, with my son on a boat in Amsterdam, and let's see what we do with the electric boats. These are three companies which I own, and all electric boats. And the first one is Sloepdelen. Those are a little bit luxurious boats, very solid, strong boats made of aluminium. These boats, initially I bought them from another owner who was active also in the canals of Amsterdam, and he started in 1999, and they were already electric boats. But we still have them. We produce them. And later we bought the second company. It's called Adams Boats. It's like a little bit more focused on like a lower price range, like a little bit more robust feeling, but also active in Amsterdam. And then lately we created like the Blue Harbor. That's the last one, and those boats are not active in Amsterdam, but they are more for open waters, and they are a little bit more spacious and luxurious, and we use them on the lakes. One thing which is interesting to know about like electric, having an electric boat rental operation is that initially you would maybe think it's not interesting to have electric boats because maybe they can't go so fast or whatever, but actually it's a very for rental purposes very interesting because it's very easy to charge them. You don't have to refuel them. They can drive up to 14 hours non-stop, and in the night you just put them into the power socket and they will recharge, and next day they can go the entire day again. And and what also is very important, what we notice is that because of the fact that they are electric, that they run on electricity, is that the general idea about this kind of rental is very positive. And if you have diesel power boats, then people complain about it smells, etc., and especially in rural environments. So it's a very good way to to have everything electric. Like I said, Sloepdelen, it's active in multiple cities in the Netherlands, and then we also do Adams Boats, which is in Amsterdam, and the Blue Harbor. We all own all the boats, and we also around all these locations you need to have permits, you need to have like electricity, of course, because they need to recharge. So but that's something we all manage ourselves. I'll go back here. When you start like a boat rental operation, and then there are a couple of things you need to think about, and one of them is of course like what concept, what are you going to use to rent out the boat, what risks, how you're going to grow your marketing and your operations. And I want to, and if you think about your concept, then first of all, of course, you need to be aware of, your customer. What is your customer looking for? Are they looking for a recreational experience? And what you see in Amsterdam is that people are looking for an alternative for owning a boat, especially since the municipality was very focused on motivating people not to own a boat, but to rent a boat instead, because of the limited space which is there, and also the issues which are there with charging a boat. Like we as a boat rental operation have our own charging facilities, and and especially in the beginning it was quite a hassle to if you had a private boat to get a charging station for that. And you have people, of course, who are who want to just explore the surrounding, and it could be also tourists, of course. But the main focus of our boat rental operations is not tourists, but more locals. It could also be people who are looking for organizing a business outing, events. People who are looking just for for a bargain, for a cheap way to go out, and people who are looking for an environmentally friendly activity. It's something you see more and more over time. And what we do with Sloepdelen is that we try to to have like different concepts, so we can provide different services for different needs. And you can see like with one concept you can for example people are looking for to relax, like locals. They have time, of course, in the weekends and they want to go out. But on the other hand, you also have like business events which are also on Thursdays and Fridays, and you can have like lower prices for people who are looking for a cheap boat ride during weekdays. So that's how you can optimize also the business a little bit. Another thing, of course, you need to be aware of is the potential, like the potential markets which are there, the rental limitations. And if you look at the rental limitations, then it could be like limitations which are there because of the local policy, that you cannot, that you can't go a certain speed, and those kind of things. You need to be aware of your playing field, and also look for what kind of partners can you team up with. For example, if you do like a business outing, it's nice if you have like a restaurant or something close by, so you can offer like these package deals. And around all these topics, you create your own business, and that's how we did it. And we have like you've seen, we have 3 types of boat rental operations, and all of them have a slightly different angle, slightly different, and a slightly different boat, of course, also. Yeah. There are some risks which you need to take into account. Yeah, competition. It's very strong competition in Amsterdam, but not only in Amsterdam. There are boat rental operations everywhere, so you need to have like a good website, good service. Everything needs to be on top. The weather, well, we can have some very horrible weather here sometimes, and what we provide is we provide these services that people can have like a membership, so they can use the boat as an alternative for having their own boat. So they pay monthly fees. So that makes you a little bit more robust for bad weather. But at the end of the day, if the weather is bad, then it's of course much more difficult to rent out boats, because these boats are more or less open. Some legal issues which you of course need to be aware of. Local policy is something which is a big risk. Municipalities, they can change their minds in regards to what kind of permits, under what conditions you will get a permit. Something which, especially not so long ago, we were very afraid of having terror attacks in Amsterdam, and what kind of effect would that have on your business, and also acts of nature, or like what we're dealing right now, COVID. Those things you need to take into account. And you can see the photo next to which you display there. Like that's something we actually did during our the lockdown, when we were not able to use the boats for leisure. So we use them to transport packages. And so it's just a flexible way of thinking, and just move from organizing boat trips to being a transportation company, actually. But we did that for quite a while, and it was very enjoyable. And as a boat rental operation, as an ambitious boat rental operation, you always want to look for opportunities to grow, of course, and you can add more boats. You can look for more boat rental locations. It's something we do all the time, but also like new concepts. So if you see there's a new need for a new kind of customer, you want to tap into that need and to provide a good service for that as well. And explore franchise opportunities is of course a very nice way to grow. So if you see that you have like a very robust business model which is successful, then other people reach out to you. That's what you experience, at least, to see if they can do the same but on another location. And that's an interesting way to grow. And and connect with third parties, like with other parties, team up with other companies, so you can get more revenue. So that's interesting. Of course, your marketing is very important, and the most important thing is your boats and your staff, how everything looks. And the boats are driving around the canals of Amsterdam, and people see those boats, and they also want to be on one of those boats, especially during the good if we have good weather. So you need to have a good website. You need to be people need to be able to find you very, very quickly. And yeah, that's important. And I want to show you a little bit of our the marketing things we how our marketing looks a little bit. These are the boats, and just to get like a little feeling of what it looks like. And yeah, this is one of the one of the websites. This is a website of Sloepdelen. Everything needs to look very attractive and easy, and we want to make it as easy as possible for people to to book a boat and to get in a boat. And yeah, the whole business is about that. Some information which we send along on the boat, so people can have a map. They can know where to go to, where not to go to. And then yeah, finally, yeah, one thing which is very important, of course, when you have your boat rental business, is you want to have control over it. You want to make allow people to make bookings easy, to have like this. Yeah, we call it an excellent customer journey. And you want to have a good overview of all your bookings, your finances, your payments, and manage your fleet. And one thing which was very important for us is we wanted to allow our customers to be able to activate and deactivate the boats themselves, and therefore we created a booking system which could all of course also accept bookings and all the other things which I mentioned. But one of the most important parts was that we wanted to allow customers to to just be able to activate and deactivate their own boats, so to make it as easy as possible. So what we thought about is, okay, if someone makes a reservation for a boat, and they maybe could even do it like on the spot, they would receive 15 minutes before the boat rental, before the booking starts, a text message with a link to our system, and then the system had to show them, okay, well, these boats are now there on the dock. Just select one, click on the button, and the boat will switch on. And at the end of the boat trip, that they can also do this with the mobile phone. Just switch the boat off, dock it, and be gone. And so this was like the basic idea about which motivated us to create like a system. And yeah, it worked actually quite well. We built in like these GSM and SMS relays in the boats. So yeah, like in the end, electric boat is just like I call it a floating vacuum cleaner. You can just switch it on and off. And with an SMS, you can just say, okay, boat on, boat off. It's very simple, very straightforward. You don't need any keys. And it feels like magic in the beginning when you do it. And so yeah, we created a system, and it worked very well, and it helped us also to optimize the customer experience, and it was just very innovative at that time, and yeah, and we aroused quite some interest from also other companies in the Netherlands, but also outside of the Netherlands, who also wanted to have the same. They asked us if they could use the system, and yeah, initially that was not a big problem, because like those were some startups, and they wanted to organize their businesses exactly the same as we had organized our business. So yeah, we had just one type of boat, which was rented out for several hours, and there were some others of these very specifics, and they could just use the system, and that worked well. But at a certain point, also other boat rental operations reached out to us with some which had multiple boats, or wanted to rent out the boats not for several hours, but for specific time slots, morning, afternoon, or maybe even several days. And they had other questions. So we started to make some adjustments to the system, and we actually started like this. We created a new company for it, which is called Let's Book. And yeah, we were aware that that there was a lot of interest for this, but that there are some limitations if you have a system and you keep adjusting it. That at a certain point you need to start all over again and make like a new system which which is built for this kind of purpose, which is very flexible and can service all kind of operations. So the lessons we learned from that initial system, which you can also see on your screen a little bit how it looks like, is that like there were like three important things which a new system should be able to do. Is like maximize flexibility. So a new boat rental operation could just customize the system so it would fit their needs, automize as much as possible, and focus on the customer experience, because at the end of the day it's all about the customer. They generate revenues, and they need to be as happy as possible. So yeah, this is like the beginning of the Let's Book story, and we have we already have quite some customers in these areas, like in Northern America, Europe, and especially Northern Europe, and also in Australia. And what you see is that like the system is initially developed for electric boat rental operations, because it's optimized for that purpose, but it's not exclusive for electric operations. But what you see of course in the Netherlands, in Scandinavia, in England now, in Germany, is that these electric boat rental markets are growing, and you even see it in the United States. And they have like a whole different perspective on boat rental. They like big and fast boats, and fast boats and electric boats are not the best combination yet. But you also see that there is growing interest in electric boats, and also of course in Australia, and like these are also the markets where we are focusing on, also with the new system we are currently developing. We are developing it right now, and it's nearly done. And I want to show you a little bit about how we look at the system, and about this this flexibility. Generally, there are 4 important points where you need to be very flexible on this, like pricing. Boat rental operations need to be able to set a pricing, flexible pricing, based on hours, on persons, on peak season, off peak. Then we have the schedules. There's some boat rental operations rent the boats out for several hours, for day parts, for multiple days, for multiple weeks. And there's like a whole different logic behind every type of rental. And then you have a way to confirm. How can you confirm a reservation? Do you do it by direct payment, down payments, or there can be many options for that. And also the communications, and then mainly the communication toward the customers, that you can really set it. And if you can set all these settings right for your business, you can create like a system which is more or less, it feels like it's custom made. It's not custom made, but as custom made as possible. And because all these small boat rental operations, they cannot afford to create their own systems. So we created something which comes as close as possible to something which could be called custom made. And for example, someone could say, okay, I have a peak season, and in the peak season, I want customers to choose and start the customers choose their own start and end times, and they can set a summer rate and accept direct payments. And that there's someone on the dock who can help them entering the boat. But on the other hand, they can also decide then for the same boat to instead work with time slots and have different kind of pricing, and that they will receive just a booking confirmation with an instruction how they can actually start and stop their boats, but without there being someone like a dock attendant to help the customers, because it's much more difficult in the low season, of course, to have these locations fully staffed. So that's the kind of flexibility we're looking into. And automation is, of course, you want to receive bookings and payments as easy as possible, and everything needs to look easy and good. You want to have good overviews on everything, and this is how that would look. And follow the sales of your company, to really get in touch with to really get a good sense of what's going on. In the customer experience, when someone goes to a booking to the website from a boat rental operations, they want to go. They want to be offered the information which is interesting to them, and not the information which is not interesting to them, and so they can go as easy as possible through this booking process and book the boat. That's something which is, of course, important. And of course, that you can communicate with the customers the way you think is best. And what we the idea which we have is that, like, the boat rental operation, they know their customer, and they know how to approach their customer. So they need to be able to to set these kind of communications. And yeah. Like, this is let's customers check in themselves. That is, like we also have locations which are that someone comes just in the morning to check if the boats are fine, but customers can just go to the locations. They can just activate, deactivate, deactivate the boat stem themselves. And for many people, that's very convenient, because they don't want to be interfered by staff. But other people, they like to have someone on dock to talk with and to get like an instruction. But that differs from situation to situation. And then finally, connect your fleet. What we can do, we can that we work together with you can build in some piece of hardware in the boat to where the system can communicate with, of course, activation and deactivation, but much more information can be used. So you can have like GPS locations and geofencing, battery levels. We can even like if a certain boat is below a certain percentage, like let's say there's 20% left in the battery, that you can send out push messages to the boat rental operator, and they can see, okay, well, we need to double check that boat if it's recharged in time, to be able to prevent that the boats will run out of energy. So this is a really nice way to to connect the software with the physical reality, and that you can actually get information from the boat. And this is something we want to develop also much more further in the future, that you can have even data from the engine. You can have data from from each battery, like from the battery pack, so you can prevent boats that will be broken because you can already see that that some batteries are not working the way they should. So this is Let's Book, and we are ready to launch in 2021. And like I said, we already have quite some customers in the United States and Europe, and we expect that probably half of all the boat rental operations in the Netherlands will eventually we can convince to start to work with Let's Book, mainly because it's created from the perspective of us as being a boat rental operation, and all the issues we faced and all the problems we encountered over the past years. We found solutions for it, and we build it in the software. So we really think that it is something which will where other boat rental operations also can benefit from. So this is my presentation, and just let me know if there's anything I can if there are any questions.
Thank you very much, Ivan, for presenting us Let's Book, your offer for also other rental companies, but also for sharing your experiences and with building up electric boat rental offers. So a lot of insights. Are there questions from the audience?
Let me ask, please, a number of questions.
Okay, Dimitri.
Even to understand well that all your boats are, let's say, license-free, that your customer doesn't need any license and its skipper license to use the boat.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, in the Netherlands you can drive a boat up to 15 meters without any license. But of course, in other there are also like boat rental operations who use our software, who actually have boats for which they need a permit, a license.
I see. The next question is, I didn't clearly understand. The customer is picking up the boat and leaving the boat after the journey in some place he wants, or in the place you are permanently renting from the government. I don't know from whom.
Yeah, no, the boats they need to like they have a dock where they are being charged, and after a boat trip, the boat needs to be returned also to the same location, and so you can't just dock it, at any place, because the boats need to, like other people who make a reservation on the boat, they need to know where to pick up the boat, and it's always the start and end location of the boat trip is also always on the dock.
It's always on the same place. It is always, let's say, round journey, not one way.
Exactly. It's always, like that. Yeah.
Okay, and you mentioned some fantastic capacity of the battery. You said that the battery runs about 14 hours.
Yeah.
Which kind of battery you are using?
We are using LED batteries. Like they are in the Sloepdelen boats, they are like 2-volt cells. It's a 24-volt system.
24 volt, and the battery capacity enough for like 14 hours of full throttle.
Yeah, and they also they need that also, especially in Amsterdam. You can imagine that, like on a very good day, like a very good weekend, and these boats can be rented out like 4 or 5 times a day. So let's say an average boat trip is a little over 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So you also need that capacity, and then overnight they need to be recharged, because if you like on a Saturday they are out the entire day, and then on a Sunday if it's good weather they need to be able to be rented out again for the full day. Yeah.
And what is the motor power in that case? I have studied a bit your boat, and I haven't seen a big battery place, at least. The boat is not small, but I haven't seen any let's say huge compartment for the battery.
If you are interested, I can share some more detailed information and photos also about the boats after this meeting. But there's like a battery pack in each boat which weighs around 400 kilograms. So it's there is quite some space. Like in the middle of the boat there is like a sort of it looks a little bit like a table, but underneath there are 9 volts, like 9 of these 2-volt cells, and in the front part of the boat are 3. And it's about 400 kilograms just of batteries.
I see. And the last question is, the boat not after each journey, but after the business day has to be cleaned and charged. And you need to have some of your own staff who is doing that, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. They and like if a boat goes out, like if a boat goes out, like on a very busy day, they need to be cleaned, of course, after every boat or at least being checked after each boat trip. but yeah, and they can, and they are all, of course, when they are back at the dock, we put them back in the power socket, and they will recharge again. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I will find your email on your webpage and then contact you. Okay.
Yes, perfect.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we have another question from Thomas from Popper Boats. What is the speed of your boats? I think the battery question was already covered.
Yeah, the speed is that's like these boats, like they have different kind of speeds, but for rental purposes they are limited. Like the one in Sloepdelen and Adams boats, they are limited to 7.5 kilometers per hour. That also has to do with the maximum speed which you're allowed to drive in Amsterdam, which is just 6 kilometers an hour. And if you make them go much faster, people will go much faster. But the other ones, the blue harbors, they actually go faster. They go about 9 kilometers an hour. And the reason for why they need to go faster is that they are being used in open lakes. And if you are in a city, like in a city, and driving in the canals, and you drive, for example, 6 kilometers per hour, and it feels like a very good speed, and it feels acceptable. But as soon as you're on open water, if you then go 6 or even 7.5, it feels like you go very, very slow, because you don't have very good perspective on how fast you're going, and people perceive the boat as being slow. So it needs to go faster, and that's the reason why we allow them to go faster.
Okay, I think, yeah. One more question is here. So the question is, what kind of drives do you use? Power. And what is the power?
What's the power? Like in the Sloepdelen boats, it's just 1.8 kilowatt. So that's not like, it's not so strong, but it's good enough to let them go. These 7.5 kilometers per hour. And in the other boats, I think it's 4, something like that. I don't know exactly, but if someone's interested in these technical details, I'm more than willing to send that information.
Okay. I was muted. So, are there any further questions?
Yes, I have the question. Yes, I have a question, because there is also this idea with Let's Book that some parts and some charters will be without any service, like in winter time or low season. So it means that you think that this charter can be without any service, without any people are involved in the process, like your employee, or how you see that? And what about the mooring then? So that means that people come after the journey and they leave a boat, and there is nobody from the service. How you feel it can work, and about the mooring and mooring lines and everything, because you are not sure it is moored properly or something. Mm-hmm.
That's a question which, like, it depends who you ask it to. Like, if we have like from the system, like from the system perspective, we make it possible to that people can come and go and take the boat and leave the boat, and under what conditions boat rental operations do that, that's completely up to them. What I can say about our own boat rental operations is that sometimes you have these like smaller locations in more like the off-peak. Then what you can do is that the boats, of course, are being checked in the morning and at the end of the day, and they are ready. And these boats from Sloepdelen, they are like very straightforward, so there are not so many things which can go wrong. And what we experience is that people generally leave these boats quite okay. And of course, there are some occasions in which it didn't went well, but those are the exceptions and not. So it's just a way to make it give you as a boat rental operator, especially if you have more locations, it makes you a little bit more flexible in instead of sending always someone to the boat. And and we know generally people they also pay a deposit, of course, when they make a reservation. So if they leave the boat on a in a very bad way, they know that they can be charged for it. So that's a good way to. And also, it's very important to inform your customer well. To send them a good booking confirmation with all the information they need, and we can also trigger extra messages. So we can send text messages during the boat trip, like be aware of that when you come back, do this, do that. So that's it's I think it's mostly about communication, and it needs to be practical. Like not every type of boat can be used for in this way.
And what also about life jackets then and other equipment?
There are some compartments on the boat where you can where you can take them and leave them again, and they are just there. And if they take them, then you can take it from the deposit. But it generally works quite well from our experience.
But I understand they are somewhere in the lockers, on the boat, and then everybody takes them out. But then I understand that also someone else can come and just get on a boat and just take in the life jackets. That's all. Yeah. So you don't close this.
It could be, but we know that in all boats who are docked in Amsterdam, people could jump in them and take the stuff from it, and of course once in a while it happens, but it's not something especially like these safety equipment is something which is we don't have any real issues with it. But you can also, what you can do, of course, if you are worried about it, you can have like a compartment on your boat with a lock on it, with a number lock on it, and then you can. That's something we also did like in the past. And then in your booking confirmation, you communicate the code of the lock with the customer, and then they can just take them out. And then at the end of the boat trip, they can put it back in and lock it again, and that works also.
And I understand all the communication goes via messages in the phone, right? Or you think about some application or something like that?
Yeah, like the communication goes through, like from the system, like everything which is automated goes through email, text message, and probably also soon with WhatsApp. But email and text message are a very solid, robust way to communicate. And it goes like that. Something I did not even mention is that also what we do is like if you can see, if the system sees that if you're booking, you're on the water, and the system sees that the boat is still available after your boat trip, then we can just send a text message with a request to I can see that you're on the water. If you enjoy your time, be aware that you can extend your your boat trip, and you can just click on a button, and the boat trip, like the reservation, will be extended automatically. So
okay, Philip. So there is another question from Zana from Latvia. So the question is, you offer boats, but also do you also offer along with this some kind of route proposals or interesting tourism routes to your customers to also tell them where they could go with the boat, part of your marketing?
Yeah, it's that's an interesting question because it has to do with the, like I mentioned, there are some different kind of customers with different kind of needs, with different kind of concept how to approach them. And if you look at, for example, in Amsterdam, like we have like these memberships for people who, locals who they know the canals and they don't want to go the tourist routes, and those are those are probably 50% of the boat trips. Then you have 20%. Those are like other people from the country and business outings, and then you have like 30% or less is they are tourists, and they come for for them it's a way to sightseeing. So then it's interesting, of course, to show them the routes and give them an indication of how long it will take, and that they know that if they take that route, that they will see all the interesting stuff which you could also see on a big tour boat. So yeah, for those people, we definitely do that. Yeah, but it's just, I think at the end of the day, it's just a very small percentage of all the customers who really does this. It looks very tempting to provide these kind of. We also were thinking about organizing, like audio tours, but many people are just on the water to relax a little bit and enjoy themselves.
Okay. Yes, so we are beyond our time frame already, but it's so much discussion here. I don't know if you agree. I would just make another round of questions here before then we come to the summary and the end. So another question from Thomas from Popper Boats. Bad weather is a problem. Is that a problem? Do boats need a roof? Could that improve?
Yeah. This is a very good question. It's very tempting to put a roof on top of the boats. And what you maybe could have seen, like in the new boats which we built, they do have a roof. But the reason why they have a roof is that they're on open lakes and there are no bridges. But the problem with Amsterdam and other cities, Dutch cities, is that there are bridges, and people are not always aware of height and how low these bridges are. So if you put a rooftop on it, and it's something, a rooftop is something which can break very easily, and everything which can break will break. That's our rule. And we don't put rooftops on these on these boats because they will just break. And the experience on being on an open boat is not like if you sit with a rooftop above you. It's a whole different game. People want to be on the water, enjoying the environment, and it's even better. Like if it's a little bit rainy, then have an umbrella or shelter underneath one of the many bridges in Amsterdam. And and like of course, if the weather is wet, if the weather is very bad, then of course you get cancellations. But at the end of the day, it's all about having fun. And you don't want to push people on the water when they're getting too wet. They will come back another time.
Okay, yeah. Maybe for the end, 2 questions from my side, and then we can release you, Ivan. Thank you for extending your time a little bit. So what you offer is a fully automated rental system, which means also that you need a certain investment for that. How do you look at it? Is fully automated boat rental, is this an option in any case, or does it need a certain profile or a certain scale before it makes sense to go for such a sophisticated solution?
Yeah, I think what we're trying to achieve is that at least it's possible to make everything fully automated. That you could hypothetically do let as many things as possible being organized by the system. And I'm very aware that not all business cases are ready for that kind of automation. But it works very, very well if it works especially very well if you have a large fleet and let's say up to 10 boats and more, and then then the company can really benefit from it. And I think if you are like smaller, and it's, of course, it's still it becomes more like a nice to have. But if you really want to scale up and grow and are an ambitious ambitious entrepreneur, then this is definitely the way to go. And yeah, that's how I look at it.
Okay. I see further questions. Let's take them. So one question is, are you present also in the Stockholm area? You mentioned that you are in Sweden, I think Malmö, but how about Stockholm?
We are not active at the moment in Stockholm. We are active in Gothenburg and in Malmö. And we actually, we also delivered our boats. They use the same boats as we use in Sloepdelen. So we provided those boats. And so yeah, we're not ready, not yet in Stockholm, but we are more than ready to go there.
Okay, and one question again, a technical thing. It's about rescue system. What if there is the boat is broken? So is there always someone who can pick up your customers and get them out of this situation?
Yeah, you always need, like on every location, you need to have an emergency plan, and need to have someone who's like backup who can go. And like if you have like a remote location, you need to have a deal with a third party. But if you in a city center where we have many boats, then there's always like extra staff who can take another boat and fix it, or we have like our own maintenance service, and they can go to any location. And because like every part in the boat is like all the boats have similar techniques, so we have spare parts of everything in a van, and something is wrong, they will drive there and they can fix every boat within 15 minutes, even if the engine is broken. So that's how it works. And also in the system is also prepared for fallout. So if one boat for whatever reason gets broken, then we have there's a system of safety margins which you can use to make one boat extra available or maybe even two if it's necessary for these kind of situations. So what you want to avoid is that, like, if you have a very busy day and on a Saturday morning and one boat is broken, that the entire day is just one big mess and everyone is stressed out. So that's something you want to avoid by all time.
Okay, thank you, Ivan. A last question. Now, really a last question from my side. So I think we have to close the meeting, unfortunately, in this discussion. So you said you are offering also your software and your services to other rental companies or interested party who want to build up e-boat system. I understand that kind of a subscription of the software is one solution, but do you also kind of offer more? Do you also offer, let's say, an all-inclusive package, including also boats and other parts of this business and operation?
Yeah, that's also an interesting question, and the answer is yes, we do. We like the boats, the new boats which we developed for the Blue Harbor. They are designed for one purpose, and that's just for rent out, to be able to rent it out. And they so we can definitely provide those kind of boats. And the reason why they are so good for rental purposes is that, like, the entire everything which is the technique is in one box on the boat. And when something is broken, just a guy comes, takes the box out, puts new box in with all technique, and the boat can run again. And that's something which is very, very interesting. And we are experimenting with it right now, and it seems to work very well. And that's also something we want to provide to the market. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Ivan. Now, really, so you are released now from this question and answer session. Thank you very much for your endurance again. So
yes,
that was a lot of questions here. So, well, unfortunately, it's time to close the meeting. I'm very happy that it was so active today with a lot of questions, and I hope you got a lot of inspiration. So let's just a little bit of thank you summary and a little bit of outlook at the end. So I will go back to my presentation. So we are here. So, well, if I should summarize the meeting today, I would say what we have learned today, that electric water mobility and electrifying a boat region is not such a faraway vision, but it can really become reality already today and now, given that on the one hand you have a community that wants it, and a political kind of part that has also the braveness to get it through and does not hesitate also to put restrictions here. And on the other hand, also that you have creative entrepreneurs who make use of these opportunities and of this, like Ivan now called it, to make the most of these floating vacuum cleaners that you can use for business purposes. So I would like to thank all the speakers for their contributions, and also especially not only to present their offer, but really to share also their business concepts and insights into this with the audience. I think that was very much appreciated. I would also give a big thank you to the e-boating and e-shipping team of the City of Amsterdam, to Evelyn, to Angelique, and also to Monica, who helped us a lot to identify the topics and the right speakers. So that was very much appreciated, and we hope that one day we can also go in person again to Amsterdam to have a look to all these nice solutions, and also to meet you personally. Just a technical thing, there will be a recording and also the slides of this meeting available on the ELMA website after the meeting. So if you want to have a look again, or also if you want to share it with someone who was not able to attend today, so you can use this opportunity. We will also send around a little feedback questionnaire. We would be very glad if you could just take these 2 minutes to give us a feedback in order to improve also for future events. And future events, that is my last keyword here. So what I would like to announce in the very end is that we will have, in our series of online seminars on electric water mobility, we have one more event. And this will be on next Wednesday, so not 17th as announced. We moved it to 16th because of availability of speakers. It will be 16th of June, again from 9 to 12 o'clock, and the topic there, we will go a little bit to larger vessels there, and it will be kind of a follow-up of a physical face-to-face study trip that we had in the beginning of our project 3 years ago to Norway, and it will be Norway revisited on the way to a comprehensive rollout of electric water mobility. We will have a look if the policy plans match with the reality after 3 years. There was an announcement that 20 electric ferries should be in operation. Let's see what has come out. We will have presentations on the next generation battery electric domestic car ferries. We also have high-speed craft concepts, also battery driven, and a presentation on the world's largest hybrid RoPax ferry. So the color hybrid, you see here also a picture. So this is a little bit going into the shipping sector and to larger vessels in this series of events. So we would be very glad to welcome you again next week. And once again, thank you very much for your attention, and also for the lively discussions and your contributions. So thank you very much, and goodbye. We hope to see you again.